I kept on telling my colleagues, look, data is data. Like everything you gather, like everything you collect is data. So that's how I have engaged with the notion of data, that in fact it's not technical. It is everything that we collect on the ground, even like literature reviews and articles that you collect to use for your literature review. That is data.
I learned from a qualitative tradition that your data is your focus groups, your interviews, that sort of storytelling piece, like that's data. But with this project, we're doing some critical discourse analysis work on policies. So we're collecting data like policy revisions, discussions in the House, all of those things end up being data.
A lot of like my data and Marissa's data is secondary data. So you can collect a ton of it from all the different openly sourced data sites and stuff.
And then because we're also doing art, like during the learning circles, women's are doing art. So it's the materials that are data. It's if we keep the art or if women take the art, it's those photos. Like these are all a piece of what we're learning and the storytelling. Yeah.
So that's why you have like primary data, secondary data, and all those. So once you tell them these different variations of data, then they get to understand that, oh, actually there is data, and I'm engaging with data, and I'm not engaging with like a huge database before I can call my data data. So that's how I've engaged with the notion of data in terms of conceptualizing what it means, and also for people that I work with.
But it's like, okay, once you have it, what are you doing with it? If you don't have an immediate plan of action, it's just going to sit on your desktop or in a file and you forget about it.
Data management is also tricky, especially within the field that I'm in. It's like, well, you have interviews, you have transcripts. Now, what are you going to do with that? Like, what is management, right? And again, management also comes from like a more business orientation. It's like, oh, managing data? Like, I'm not an admin person. I'm not going to be managing data. But we are responsible for what we collect. We are responsible for the information that people entrust us with.
My pitch to everyone is that data has value, that it is worth it to take care of it and make a plan for it and organize it, and then potentially that there's value in sharing it at the end of the project. And so making sure that you have data available is a really important process, and that it's organized well and managed well so that other people can understand it.
So I think of it as research has two parts. It's the what you're researching, and then it's the how. And the how broadly gets talked about as methodology. But within the how, there are a million small decisions. And there are all kinds of ways that you can build your workflows, build your processes for how you actually get the research done. And so RDM worries about and explores the how of research and the process of managing your products of research, as well as making decisions about what happens to those research projects, the data, and then the write-ups once the project is actually finished.
Mistakes happen, data gets lost, evidence gets lost, coding errors happen, all sorts of mistakes happen. And if you have a good research data management practice in place, when those mistakes happen, they're not as disastrous as they otherwise would be.
What I'm realizing is that, going through this process, that research data management requires a lot of organization all the time. And while you may think that you are organized, you're not organized probably to the degree that you should be, in the sense of when you think about how much of your information should be backed up and where it should be backed up. And even just the processes, understanding who should have access to what and when.
So I see management as basically taking responsibility for the information that you have, for the trust that people have in you as a researcher, and making sure you are holding yourself up to that standard.
I think to me data management is specifically a map that allows you visually to see what's done and what needs to be done. And again, it allows people to be accountable for whatever commitments they have taken on, rather than searching through so many folders. It's just there. It's just there. So that's what it is to me. It's sort of it saves time, energy, frustration. That's what it is, yeah, in a nutshell.
I thought that if I knew where everything was, it would be okay. And then, you know, as I've been going through this process, I've realized, well, no, I actually need to make sure that I, you know, write all this out and make sure that my README file is very clear, and that, you know, I've stored all the files in, you know, 3 different places, making sure that, you know, I'm using a strong naming convention, one that is like very clear.
I'm collecting all that information. I need to be responsible for it. Someone is just trusting that I will be, because they sign all these things and we tell them all these wonderful things, and then they're trusting that whatever data, information they're giving me is going to be, you know, used in an effective way, proper way, the way I've described it to them.
So things like file structure, for example, right? Ensuring that people are putting the documents in the right place, ensuring that people have like READMEs, and just documenting things in general. Aside from that, also just having like proper naming convention. That's a big thing that we've had to like work on to ensure that everyone on the team is well aware on what the convention is and following it. And just having ongoing conversations about research data management, because I believe it's an ongoing process. You don't learn it once and then just think that you've mastered it. It's something that you have to keep repeating over time and have conversations and discussions with people that you work with.
This series is brought to you by Spark, a Center for Social Research Innovation.